Christopher Guest is here. He started as an actor in the 1960s. He then became a comedy writer on the National Lampoon's radio show. He also made records. He has achieved cult status for his work in many movies, including This Is Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman, and Best in Show. His latest film is A Mighty Wind, which he directed, he co-wrote, and he stars in it. He plays a member of a folk music group reunited to play a benefit concert, and here is a scene from the film.
Yeah, and they had no hole in the center of the record, so a lot of
you'd have to provide it
the
yourself.
people complain that you'd get this vinyl, of course, in those days, and it's kind of up to you to kind of center it and make the actual.
You would teeter crazily on the little spindle until
the hole, and that was a whole. Well, of course, we had no control over that aspect of it,
but they were still good records. They were good. It was good product.
And if you punched a hole in them, you'd have a good time.
Yeah.
Joining me now is Christopher Guest. I am pleased to have him here for the very first time. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Here's my suspicion.
Sure.
This is why I'm suspicious about you.
Okay.
A guy who does what you do,
which
has the quality to be funny, write funny, act funny.
Right.
Lives a pretty normal life. You're a pretty regular guy.
Yes.
You know, which shows you my sort of notion that somehow is as crazy as you are on film.
Right.
Does the kind of movies you do would somehow be a bit more eccentric.
Well, okay. I think you're right, and that's why probably I don't do these things, because I think people may expect something else. Maybe they expect someone that's that tells more jokes or that does some strange things. But which I'll do a little later in a couple of minutes. But
well, okay, tell some jokes or
no, I don't know any jokes.
You don't?
No.
Jokes or not?
I don't tell jokes. I don't know any jokes. That's not what I do.
You don't ask people for jokes. You know,
no.
You haven't heard anything funny? You haven't heard any jokes? You wouldn't do that?
I've heard jokes, but not in the last 10 years, maybe.
Why do you make the kind of movies you make?
Well, it occurred to me after we did, I participated in this movie called This Is Spinal Tap a while ago that Rob Reiner directed.
Right.
And Harry Shearer, Michael McKean, and I wrote the music for that, and we had a lot of fun doing it. It occurred to me that maybe that's a funny way to work. I should explain. That was an improvised film. There's no dialogue written at all, not a word.
In any film you've made?
No. Well, not in any film. I directed a movie called The Big Picture.
Right, that's right.
With Kevin Bacon.
But there is an outline, and people know who their character is.
Very much so. Eugene Levy and I work on the story for 4 or 5 months. Each character's backstory is written, their history. It's quite dense, and then I break this down into cards, 141 cards, which describes every scene, beginning, middle, and end, first act, second act, third act. So everyone has a very good idea of what to do. There's no rehearsal. I would equate it to jazz musicians playing, knowing what the song is, knowing what key you're playing in, and then listening to see whether it's time to solo or not.
Yeah. Being able to improvise.
Improvise, yeah.
The scene we just saw.
Yes.
The characters knew what the purpose of being there was.
Yes.
They knew who they were.
Yes.
And from that would come whatever hit their head.
Yes.
Whatever somebody else said made them want to say what?
Yes.
Gives them authenticity?
There's a spontaneity that comes from this kind of work that you don't find in a conventional movie, because the things being said are being said for the first time. And it's a different way of working. I find it exciting, and I think other actors find it exciting because you're there in the moment. When you work on a conventional film and you've rehearsed, you know what the next line is going to be, you are acting in a different way. This is more reacting to something that's happening legitimately for the first time. It's a challenge.
You go back to the same actors frequently?
I have to. It's a tax thing.
The tax thing?
No.
You get a tax deduction if you use the same actors?
I do,
this
because...
is a new part of the federal code which says
I do
same actors twice.
These actors, the actors in the film, and I'll miss someone if I start naming people, but are extremely gifted at this. I don't know what you would call it.
What do you call it?
I call it a task. I don't know what to call it.
I tell you what you don't call it.
What don't I call it?
You don't call it a mockumentary.
No, I don't. I don't call it a mockumentary because I don't enjoy the mock part of the Menchery description.
Because it's not mocking?
I don't think so.
What do you think it is?
I think it's done in a documentary form, which allows us to work in this way, but it's not, that's just a cheap way of, I think it saves time for people who want to describe something and think it's funny, but it's not. So I don't use that.
It shows us people that we are like doing what might be considered silly things. I'm thinking now Best in Show.
Right.
But we like them because they are serious about it and they're themselves. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, but it may be silly to you, but to 3 million people who have dogs, or 10, 20 million, 1,000 million people have dogs, it's not silly at all.
It's very important.
It's the most important thing. The most important thing. Now, all of us have hobbies, or that may seem strange to someone else. People collect thimbles, and that's not what I do, but that's someone's world, and they may go to a convention where there are thimble collections, and that's their model trains. There's a big world out there that's hidden in many cases, and I think it's very interesting to go into those worlds.
Is that why you made this movie? You wanted to go into the world of folk music?
Well, I wanted to make music again in a film. And it really started with that before I had even considered the kind of music. I actually had played folk music in the 60s. I'm actually one of those people who remember that.
Do you still play folk music?
Apparently.
Well, I don't mean just in this movie, but do the folksmen get together?
The folksmen don't get together outside of this movie other than to perform for, and we've opened for Spinal Tap. We've opened for ourselves on occasion. We actually once got booed off so people could actually see us in different outfits, which was a very surreal moment. But I think, yes, I play folk music, but it's not the kind of folk music that's represented in this movie. I play bluegrass, I play maybe perhaps more legitimate music than...
But you were onto the idea of why you wanted to make this movie, and this music.
It really came from wanting to play music. I realized that I knew something about this kind of music. I realized that the cast are extremely musical people, without exception, either singers or really good players, and that afforded me the luxury of building this story where we all had to play music, and the music is done live in the film. The whole concert is live, which doesn't happen very often in films.
As I said, they come together for a benefit concert after sort of looking back. What do you like best about this whole process of, from start to finish, of making a movie, a Christopher Guest movie?
Well, I enjoy many aspects. I love writing with Eugene. The making of it is oddly the most distracting, because if I'm directing and acting, it goes by very quickly, because I have a lot of grown-up work to do. I have to do many things at the same time.
You're in charge.
Yeah. I love the editing. Robert Layton is the editor I work with, and it takes us close to 9 months to edit these films.
But you like that. You love the idea of pouring over those.
I love that, yeah. I love that. I find it very exciting.
Would you consider some other form now, even though you have in the past? I mean, or are you now sort of this somehow, you found your stroke?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. I would say I wouldn't say that this is all that I'm going to do. I would say it really depended on the material or the idea that I had, and if something was served better to be done in a different way, then I would look at that. For the moment, this seems highly enjoyable.
And it fits.
It seems to fit.
All right, roll tape. This is the first scene. This is where Bob Balaban, who plays Jonathan Steinblum, he explains this tribute to his father. Here it is.
All from so very high. She was very protective. You could say she was overly protective. I just like to think she cared about me, well, of which she did a lot. And I was a member of the chess team. And whenever we would have chess tournaments, I had to wear a protective helmet. I had to wear a football helmet. Now, who knows what she was thinking? Maybe she thought that we might have fallen, maybe, and impaled our heads on a pointy bishop or something. I don't know.
Just 1 take, 2 takes, 3 takes?
I would say, I can't remember specifically.
No, I don't mean
the scene,
specific,
but I would say that 3 would be average, and sometimes it's 1.
And never the same words.
Rarely the same words.
Yeah.
rarely the same words, which makes editing interesting.
Is narrative a problem at all?
No. No. This is, in some ways, this has to be more strictly adhered to than ever, because if you don't have at your disposal as an actor every single detail of what happens in a scene and your backstory and the other person's, you can't begin to work. And you can't, it's not just people yapping, coming in and just saying whatever you want. It's very difficult to articulate what this is. Because people, I get a lot of, I'm trying, I get a lot of blank looks, and I'm getting one right now. But
no, you're not. I just wanted, no, you're not getting a blank look. I want your best, though. I want to hear you explain this better than you ever have.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, you should have gotten me this morning. Let's see.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, no, I've used this analogy about music, but then it occurred to me, of course, if you're not a musician, then you're even more in the hole, because you say, well, how do people stand up and play a saxophone? There's no music they're reading. Where does their mind go to, how are they inhabited by some muse that moves them to play a C instead of an A, and then now you're back to where you started from. Now but I can only say this is something that you are kind of born knowing how to do.
You really believe that?
Absolutely. I've done this for a long time now, and when I meet actors, there's nothing to read, there's nothing to audition. I talk with them, and I can get a sense
whether they have it.
Whether they have it.
Okay,
very
so what are you looking for?
I am looking for intelligence and someone.
Oh, that's easy to spot.
And someone who can listen. And who has some kind of a spark. And again, it's not only hard to explain the actual premise of what this is, but then it's even harder to explain, well, how do you know what that is?
Yeah.
But, and not to be glib about this, but there are people who can run fast, there are people who can jump high, and to them, it's, well, I can run fast, I can jump high. Well, I can stand with these people in front of an audience, or it happens to be on film, and we can talk forever, basically. And then I get that look.
No, why do you say that?
No, because it's a cheap joke.
It is a cheap joke.
No, honestly, it kind of goes around in a circle. Then it ultimately lands in my lap in the sense that I can't fully explain this. I apologize. But it is something I truly believe. You were born with this. I think you can get better at it, but it's not something that can be taught.
Yeah, it's an X factor you have or don't.
It is. And people go to improv classes, but they're essentially learning it as an exercise to help in acting, which can help because it loosens you up potentially. But you can do this or you can't. And it also should be pointed out by me, because I'm speaking, I guess, that as opposed to what you see in a club, where you go to see improv in a club, they're heading for a joke, basically, and the energy's a little more unreal. And that this is separate because it's more real-time behavior, perhaps, in the sense of it's more realistic as far as energy goes.
The putting it together, the actual shooting of this, do you shoot, explain that to me.
It's very different than a conventional movie.
Okay.
The scenes that I'm not in, I have a little microphone, and I speak. In this case, this was shot by Arlene Donnelly, a woman from New York, a very talented camera woman. It's all handheld, and I tell her as it's happening where to go. I say in a whisper, go to Eugene, move into Eugene, as you would on television, live television.
Right, exactly. Right.
Come back out to a two-shot. And therefore, because I can sense how the scene is developing, I know what's going to kind of happen. When I'm in a scene, then the bets are kind of off, which is why I think I'm less and less in the movies that I'm doing. I think I appear less than I used to.
It is said that in some scenes you can see the camera shaking because the camera person is laughing.
That happens. That has happened, yes. That has happened, yes. And we've cracked each other up on occasion.
You've used Fred Willard.
I've used Fred Willard to the best of my knowledge. Yes, one of the strangest people ever, one of the funniest people ever, truly from another place. Yeah.
You resisted Planet, but
no, because it's not a planet. He's technically a human, but nobody knows where this comes from. And he's the one actor that I've worked with where we roll out entire mags. This is not cut. This is, we all kind of run the 10 minutes on these 16mm cameras, and Fred will be the one to say, I'm not finished. And everyone kind of looks around. No, we realize you're not finished, but we actually have to move on.
We have to go to another scene.
There's actually another scene in the movie that you're not in.
And thank you very much, but we have what we want.
Right. The other thing that's unusual is that we shoot these movies in 24, 25 days, and a conventional movie could be 60, 80 days, and it's different.
What's the budget for a movie like you made?
Well, it depends. No, it doesn't. The budget is, on this one, it was about $9 million, which is so far under the radar of a typical movie that you couldn't even have anyone understand it that worked at a studio. They would just...
That's a number
they'd say, no, that's
a number they're not familiar with.
They're not familiar with it, except if it's the party after the movie. That's how it's familiar. No, we understand. That's the... with the shrimp and the tent, right, where the people show up.
We're talking about $9 million to make the whole movie. That pays for the cameras, that pays for the location, that pays for the actors.
Correct. And the actors all get the same amount of money, including me. And we all share, and it's a favored nations thing, because it's my group, and I say, well, let's all do this, and let's all...
So everybody knows that you're...
Absolutely. And we share in a participation of this as well.
Is there no jealousy among the actors?
I don't think so. No, I think if you had jealousy, you couldn't make a movie like this. Because this is not a movie where someone is in their trailer waiting to come out because their scene is being shot, and you know, time to come out. And this is, we watch each other work. I think these people really enjoy. They're fans.
So when
of,
Fred's doing his scene, people are standing around watching.
Everyone is watching Fred work, without exception. Everyone, you know, it's like kids at a party. I mean, and this is fun. This is fun to do. This is.
When did you meet Fred Willard?
Over 30 years ago, Fred and I were in a play at the Circle in the Square Theater called Little Murders. And it was the first play I ever did. It was a Jules Feiffer play that Alan Arkin directed. I knew something was off when Fred actually started doing lines that weren't in the play to me. And I was...
Just to throw you off?
You'd have to ask him. I was 19, I think.
Yes. You said...
No, I was 20. And I was sitting on the stage. This is the play going on. There are people there. And I heard these words that weren't familiar. And I looked over, and there was Fred, of course. He's in the play. But I didn't really know what to make of it, other than I just looked at him and...
said, you're different.
Nodded. And I said to myself, you're different. And he is.
Yes. Roll tape, here's Fred Willard.
So I thought if you could do that, we'd have someone on stage drench the whole group with water. And you could look at the camera and say, hey, what happened? And every time, another thing of water, and by then you're all soaked, even the ladies. And at the end of the song, you turn the guitars and all upside down and water splashes out, kerplunk. It's just a thought.
Just tell me that scene.
Well, all that's set up is they're rehearsing. Obviously, they know the song.
Right.
And I said to Fred, this is, you interrupt them.
Period.
Period.
You interrupt them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That explains
Maybe
everything
you have
right
an
there.
idea.
You know who you are.
Oh, yeah.
You know who they are. Oh, no,
yeah.
I'm saying Fred does.
Yes.
Fred knows who he is.
Oh,
he knows who
absolutely.
they are.
Absolutely.
He knows the moment in the film.
He knows the dynamic as the manager of this group.
Yeah.
Go over and, you know, interrupt this rehearsal.
And if you know yourself, you know your character, you will know what he might say. End of story. You Fred Willard.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. And there it is. Yeah. There it is. That may have been one or two takes. I don't know. And,
yeah. Next scene. This is Bob Balaban talking about the staging of the concert with the director, who is Michael Hitchcock. I just want to get these scenes in because they're so funny. Roll tape. Here it is.
Object that represents the thing that it actually is, can that be next to something that it's pretending to be?
Yes, it's
Would that be
perfectly
okay?
fine. You know, I really don't have time to explain Stagecraft 101. This show starts in an hour. Now, everything is exactly the way you...
What's that? Those are lights hanging up there?
Yes, those are lights.
Could they fall?
And that's a ceiling above us.
But they look shaky.
No, they're not shaky. They're
It's
perfectly...
like that wire. I see a wire. I see it.
Ow!
That scene.
yes.
Oh!
Yeah. he just whacked him. He just
Didn't expect it, didn't know? Yeah.
One take. The crew literally fell over, and there's a laugh almost on top of that. We had to cut it. There was barely room to make the cut because of the ouch, and then it just was so shocking to people. And this is, I should point out that has built, this relationship has built to the point where Mike Hitchcock has to do that. Somebody please do that. And he's done it.
Let me go back to Saturday Night Live for you.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday Night Live gives that reaction to you?
Well, no, it was the water. It was the...
No, it's good water. Was that a good experience for you? Truthfully?
Basketball, you said?
No,
I enjoy
said
basketball?
Saturday Night Live.
Ah. Saturday Night Live. Well, I did it for 1 year.
Oh, come on.
No, seriously.
Don't.
No, I'm telling you, Billy Crystal, Martin Short,
Right.
and I signed 1-year contracts.
Right.
We did it for 1 year.
Right.
And at the end of 1 year, we left.
Because?
Because we had 1-year contract.
Okay, was that the only reason? Did you say, gee, I love this so much, I'd like another contract?
We said, I love this so much, we signed a 1-year contract. Honestly, we came to that at a stage in our careers. Normally, it's much younger people would go to the show, and we had been somewhat established. We'd already done Spinal Tap, and Billy had done his thing. So we did whatever we wanted to do. It just wasn't the kind of thing, I guess, that I wanted to do. I just met my wife-to-be.
Yeah.
We were about to get married, and I was a bit distracted, I have to say. Very distracted.
So Jamie Lee Curtis had you all befuddled.
She had me distracted in a big way.
It's understandable.
Yes, to the extent that I thought this was taking the show was just sort of a, whew, I now have to go and
You'd
do
rather
that.
be back with Jamie Lee.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So that was an odd thing, yeah.
Billy Crystal could do this or not?
Billy's a wonderful improviser.
He could do this.
Absolutely. He's done it.
No, I know, but he's not in this one, is he?
No, but he's a big star. You can't put a huge movie star in this movie because people would say, why is Billy Crystal, repairing shoes in that little store? I think there comes a point where it's not an accident that they're not famous people in here. Famous actors have said, I'd love to do this, and...
Fred Willard's a famous actor.
Not in the same way. Seriously. Billy is really, actually, for movie stars, he's one of the only ones that could do that, the work, but he's too big. So it's same with Martin Short. Martin's wonderful at this kind.
Too big.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, they'll probably say, what do you mean, but...
Wait till they see this. How come you didn't call me, Chris? I'm too
no,
big?
These are friends of mine, so it's not just...
When you make these,
Yes.
do you take advice from your actors?
Advice?
Do you consult with them about the movie you're making?
No.
I thought you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
No.
I knew it.
Did you?
Yes, I knew it.
Really?
I can know enough about you already to know that. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, though.
I mean, you're not a man who doesn't know himself. I can tell you that.
Here's the thing. Gene and I, once we've written this story, the actors have tremendous leeway now. Once their characters are outlined, essentially, and their history, I say to the actors, you get to pick the clothes you're wearing. You get to if you want to bring something on the set, they obviously write their parts in the sense that they're doing it on camera.
Sure, right.
But they can't say, can my character have been born in New Delhi and have a rash on their... No, because now we're, But they have a tremendous amount of
What
freedom.
would you say if they said that?
Well, in that case, I'd say yes. But that was a bad example.
That was a good example. Yeah, exactly. You would say that. I mean, being born in Delhi and having, having a rash,
I would have
that
said,
would get you in there immediately.
That would get
That
you
would
in
be
there.
a flash of brilliance.
Yes.
Wouldn't it?
Well,
it would add to it. It would give it a kind of multilateral feeling.
Yeah.
And that's good. And it would... I'm going to take a look at a scene from Spinal Tap.
Wow.
Here it is.
Uh-oh, this is...
Up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
So here's what you said to me. When you knew it was this scene, you said, this scene has legs.
Well, it seems to have taken on, so this was done 20 years ago, it seems to have taken on the 11 thing, or whatever, how you want to describe it, comes up quite a bit. If people do recognize me, they say, oh, does your car go to 11? And, you know, thing. So that 11 thing, people actually started making amplifiers that went to 11, and,
because of this.
And guitar knobs and things like that. So it's nice that the film has some staying power, I think.
How about Waiting for Guffman? Didn't do as well as the others?
No, it was a very small release. It was in very few theaters. It may have been in 50 theaters.
It was as good as the others?
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to say that.
Well,
there were a lot of
wouldn't be
people
able to say with it? I mean, you
No.
must know.
No.
You don't have any opinion as to whether Waiting for Guffman was as good as Spinal Tap, as good as Best in Show, as good as
wow,
A Mighty Wind?
A McCarthy thing.
Yes.
No,
Were you or were you not?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know or do you not have any friends? Have you no decency?
I like the film. I do like the film. I like the film. But that was the first film I made in this manner, and it wasn't in a lot of theaters. But subsequently, that film has done well in the DVD area, and it sort of feeds all of this stuff. I guess people may have gone back and looked at it.
I tell you why. Because you and your name on it. Roll tape. Here it is.
Asking me to do something I don't want to do. To leave. To go out and just leave and go home and say, make a clean cut here and say, no way, Corky, you're not putting up with these people. And I'll tell you why I can't put up with you people, because you're bastard people. That's what you are. You're just bastard people, and I'm going home and I'm gonna bite my pillow is what I'm gonna do.
What are you thinking when you watch that?
What am I thinking?
Yes.
I was thinking I'm going to have the grilled salmon.
Tonight?
Yes. And just a salad, something light-ish. I'm thinking I haven't seen that for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's odd, you know.
But
I don't.
You were looking at it like you weren't thinking about salmon and
yeah.
salad. You were looking at it like
wondering why I had done it. I don't watch my movies. I don't sit at home, and once I've done them, I don't see them
ever.
Well, if by accident, I mean, if it's on a plane or something. But I don't.
Well, you don't have to watch the movies on the plane.
Well, it's right in front of you. You could put your head between your legs,
but then you
wouldn't need talcum powder. The thing is, I don't go back and, you know, in the middle of the night and put on these movies and, well, I do that, but I don't have a clicker in my hand. I don't, it makes me uncomfortable, actually. I like making the movies, and there it is, but I don't...
Makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why. I did that, you know, that's kind of done, and I'm glad if people enjoy it, but I don't dwell on it, I suppose.
Okay, well, bear with me then. We've got one more scene.
You don't have to watch it. You can put your head between your legs.
Put your head down. You look the other way.
Right,
exactly.
okay.
You can read this piece of paper. Best in Show is the movie. One of my faves. Here it is.
You know, I can't dance. I can't. I've got 2 left feet. I got 2 left feet.
I thought he was kidding.
But I wasn't. I was born with 2 left feet, and they had a nickname for me. They used to call me Loopy. Because, you know, I would walk in little loops, kept going in circles.
Wow.
Wow.
That I enjoy watching.
Yeah, because?
Well, they're 2 of my favorite actors in the world. I mean, Catherine is, you know, it's, wow. It's just harder to watch yourself, I suppose.
Life is good for you.
Really? Yes.
That's a question.
It is, because it's a very rare thing to be given. It really goes back to being given the ability to do this by a company, Castle Rock, which is a production company in Los Angeles, that have given me, that have trusted me to do these movies, where they have said, these are your movies, and you may, and that is a gift that a lot of people don't get, and it's unbelievable. It doesn't happen in the business that we work in, where someone says, you get to do this. I'm not going to tell you how to do this, so if it fails, it's your thing, and if it succeeds, it's your thing. It's very unusual.
It's a kind of a Woody Allen thing, in part.
it's a kind of a Woody Allen thing, yes. Yeah. I don't know what his exact
well, but I
situation
know
is,
either,
but,
and it's changed.
But
Obviously,
yes,
he went from one studio to another. But at the same time, it is they know what he's going to do. He's going to go make his movie. Then I can try to.
And that is, it's highly unusual. It's highly unusual, and I am more than grateful. It's almost it's a real gift. You know.
Who are your heroes?
I have different kinds of heroes. I have Peter Sellers is my main hero. As a kid, I got to meet him once in London. Well, I was quite young. I had the I got to meet him and worked on a movie for BBC with him there. He was the main guy, still is, I guess.
Because?
Well, in comedies, in films, you either have people that are not really in their roles, or you have people that just aren't funny. And he was so deeply invested in these people that even if the film itself wasn't good, I was just obsessed with this incredible talent and ability to disappear into these people. I have musical heroes as well, and that's, well, because I've been a musician my whole life as well. Wow, you know, I have Bill Monroe as a mandolin player, and Doc Watson are heroes of mine, and it's good having heroes in different areas. Willie Mays was a hero. I grew up in New York City.
Sure. Number 24.
Number 24.
How about filmmakers?
I loved Woody Allen's movies before I even made movies. He was, you know, the only person doing something that I could connect with.
Especially the early ones.
Well, that's before, yes, because I didn't make movies. I thought, how can someone be making the actually funny movies? That was kind of a novelty at the time. And his intelligence and his, going way back to even his work as a stand-up was just incredibly funny to me. And aside from that, the people I've admired have not been made comedy movies. They've, you know, Altman has done some really interesting films, and Scorsese,
Bob Balaban,
and Coppola have made, you know, wonderful films. I like a lot of foreign films as well. Ang Lee is a hero, a current hero.
Because?
There's a magical quality in these films. There's an elegance and a grace to the filmmaking, which is very refined, highly unusual, and I find it transporting, you know. Suppose you went to the studio, Castle Rock. Yes.
And said, look, I just made A Mighty Wind. It's doing well. We're all doing well. I want to go do something very different. I've been influenced by Ang Lee. He makes a different kind of movie. I want to be graceful. I want to have be able to create a certain kind of film. You think they'd say?
They would say, let me get back to you. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know.
Let's think about it.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd say that really sounds like a great
idea for Ang Lee.
Great idea for Ang Lee. We're going to see if he's available.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Can she do this?
I don't know, but we made an unwritten pact. We've been married almost 20 years now, that we would not work together because we thought that this was maybe it's a better idea to actually have a private life and then go off and then come back. She's very funny. She's funny in other comedies that I don't do. I think that's one of her strengths, you know. She's also too famous by a long shot. She has an interesting career now because she's writing these amazing books. She's also a very talented photographer, and she's a mother.
And she does commercials.
Well, she used to, but she's a mother. You know, we have a 7-year-old and a 16-year-old, and this is a big job. You know, and she's being a
That's
mother.
her primary.
now it is with doing the books, and she's just done a film, but that's now taking more of a backseat.
Great to have you here. It really is.
Thank you.